What's up, everybody? Welcome back to one of my videos here. I'm going to kind of do things a little bit different. I had the thought the other day of kind of drifting away from the longer tutorial videos where you break down every single step from beginning to end on a track. I have another one of those that I'm working on. I'm almost done editing, so I will be putting that out. But from now on, I kind of want to focus on workflow type of things. Everybody is different and we all approach music production. Obviously a lot of similarities, but subtle differences from person to person. I always get a lot out of seeing someone else's workflow, and I've been told in the past by other people that they enjoy seeing my workflow. So I'm trying to make a point of being aware from now on when I'm working on my own music to be aware of those opportunities that would make for good topics, which brings us to today. Let's just get started by recording into Ableton the sample that I'm going to be working with. It was something that I came across randomly, and I happened to have the OP1, so I plugged my phone into that and recorded a little piece of it just very quickly so I wouldn't forget. So I'm now going to get that piece out of the OP into Ableton for a couple of reasons. So the reason we'd get that sample off of the OP1 and into Ableton is so that we can manipulate it in various ways, not just warping time. We can EQ it better, I can compress it, switch the pitch around without changing its timing, or we can warp it just to clean it up a little bit and make it easier when we're chopping it and flipping it. Or you can also do more of an extreme warping so that you take something such as this very loose jazz piece and make it into a perfect 4/4 meter sample. I should probably add that this sample, I had pitched it down in the OP before recording it onto here by 4 semitones transposed down, which makes it longer. I believe the OP1 has a very short sample time limit, so it's just way easier for me to try to figure out the BPM of a sample in Ableton, just because I'm so used to working in Ableton, and I have the ability to just throw a drum loop over it if I want, which helps. Now, I had already been working on this for a minute when I realized that I should be recording, so I've already got the tempo pretty close. But as you can see, it's pretty helpful to be able to audition drums over the piece of music just instantly. And if I don't like that, I can try a different drum loop too. So I'm actually going to import those drums. On second thought, I want something more chill, and I had picked out something over here. Oh yes. So it's even more obvious now than ever that this sample is not 87 BPM. I did decide on 87 BPM though, because I had the ability earlier on the OP to play some drum beats that were 87 and then chop the sample up and then flip it over that beat. And so I know that 87 is more or less a sweet spot for this. So first things first, we have our one set. We set that already by doing the whole right click thing and hitting set 1/1. And generally I will right click on the 1 marker and then hit warp from here. If you want to keep it the same and not drastically change the timing and rhythm and therefore the arrangement of this part, then what you want to do is make sure you're kind of staying zoomed out as far as we can be. And then just go in, and anything that's super close to where it's supposed to be, like this one right here. You can see the beginning of the waveform, the peak of it. Its warp markers right here, right next to the line. It even looks like it's almost where it's supposed to be from zoomed out like this. Same with this one here. This one's a little too far away. These I don't want to mess with. So when you zoom in, it's not as close as it looked. But when you zoom back out, now you can see right there. And then go through and just do that with the rest of them. So this one's pretty close, but This one here, I would say. Maybe this one, yeah. Which also then puts this one, and probably this one. This is too far away from anything. Let's just go with that one, and then that. This is the beginning, and then this is, okay. It's not going to go perfectly with these drums, but it will if we put it into a sampler. Let's just try that real quick. First, before I put it in the sampler, I am going to consolidate what we have here though. So I'm gonna hit Command J, and now I have one consolidated piece. I can drop this into the drum machine pads. So I want to put it in the sampler here. And I can hit the Alt Option key while I drag it over to the next cell. Some start times for each of these 4. Okay, so let's try that with this beat looping here. So obviously that was very, very rough, but the point was to just show you that this sample in its current timing is cohesive with a drum beat at 87 BPM. Now remember, that is with us smoothing it out with the warp markers in the obvious spots, and then we consolidate it. However, we can warp this and make it a jazz sample into sounding more like a pop sample. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. So when you listen to this, you can hear that da-na-na-na-na-na. So it's a very obvious melody that they're using as the beginning of this 4 bars, right? So you hear that again over here at the end. It was similar anyways, before the OP cuts it off because it runs out of sample time. So I know that this, when it happens again, is not a part of the first phrase. It's actually going to be the beginning of the next phrase, right? So I'm going to use that to my advantage and find where that starts. Where's the 1 of the next phrase, which is going to be about here, I think. Yeah. That's exactly it. So I can use that to my advantage. If I'm going to make a 4-bar loop, then I can use this as the last beat of my last bar. Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and put a warp marker there. That way this thing stays put. Otherwise, without that there, if I'm going to move something, it moves. And now we've lost that point. So I want it to hold still. Don't go anywhere. Okay, so now let's listen back to this. I'm going to turn this loop back on, and then we'll hit play, and I'll use these drums too. I have a feeling this is the first beat of the second measure. Feel how that just completely changed the vibe? Feels like it's already close. I feel like little too early. I'm gonna move this back just a hair. Oh, let's try it here. That works, but let's try here. Or no, here. So this, I think, is either going to be here or on the 4. I could make that work for sure. Let's try something else. Halfway in between the two. I don't like that. Let's try, instead of going over to the right a beat, let's go over to the left 1 beat. That slows things way down over here. Halfway in between. I don't know, I think I'm gonna have to leave it on the 4 here. Okay, so these little ones here, this is the bass, I think is what I'm hearing. I'm gonna clean this whole little area up. This warp marker is in line with this peak of this transient. I'm gonna take a guess. It's either gonna be on the 3 or 1 little fraction over. Let's try that one. I have a feeling it's this one. Yeah, because then that puts doo-doo right here on the right spot. Oh, it's beautiful. And the funny thing is too is, you know, if I had chosen to put it over on the right on the 3 as opposed to putting it over here, when I chose to put it right here, all these other little ones here got to a spot where it looked like it was even more perfect, like it was made to go there. And on this side, the same thing happened. Whereas if I had put it on the 3, this stuff gets even more out of whack. So sometimes you can, if you make the right or wrong decision, you can tell based on what the other warp markers are doing, where they're now sitting. End here, I feel like these are all a little bit late, so I'm gonna pull them over to the left. This, the obvious choice would be here, but I don't think it's the obvious choice. Let's try it this way. Yeah. sometimes the fact that you've chosen the wrong thing is obvious. Slaps you in the face. So it, but I can no longer ignore it. Little brush sticks in the back from the drummer you can hear. If you don't know, sometimes you can just make it up. As long as you're not completely off with the timing. And also, as long as you're not doing any kind of time stretching that is so crazy that it degrades the sound, unless you're going for that effect, because sometimes it's an interesting effect. I mean, that song before we did this was hard to even count out. It was difficult to even try to find the BPM. This route is one that I like to always have available as an option. Besides, in its current form, with all this warping, it's super catchy now. This is good because if you're trying to hide the use of certain things, this is a good way to hide it. automated content ID systems implemented by giant corporations / websites. I don't know, such as the one that's hosting this video. Those are constantly on the prowl for things that may or may not be infringing. It's good to make things so completely different and changed that they are perhaps unrecognizable, at least by a computer program. Now the last thing, real quickly, just to show one little example of how we can completely turn the original thing that we started with on its head and create something entirely new. So I'm going to get rid of this. So, quite different. I mean, it's similar in one way because a lot of the major things are still in the same place. For instance, this one here, this one I believe here, the ending's pretty similar. A lot of the fundamental things are still the same, but a lot of the little details are completely different. The phrasing of certain parts is much different, and there's little complex little trill sounding things, quick little hammer on pull off, that kind of thing. So let's kind of see real quick how this one would work in the sampler as well. So I am going to do Command J, and now we'll load it into the sampler. Anyways, you get the idea. That was obviously very rough, but it still fits over it just fine. Whether you want to leave it alone, fix it up a little bit, completely change it into something else, or just make it sound more catchy and maybe more accessible. Over here I had done something else where I even took it a step further and copied and pasted some parts from others. So anyway, that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed that, and hopefully you got something out of it. If you have anything you want to add or any question or anything, go ahead and comment, and remember to like and share and subscribe, and be sure and hit that little bell notification thing so you get notified whenever I have other videos. Thanks guys, peace.